Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Evening, day, Doctor and everyone. Who else is out there? Tracy, user SCJ1122. You know how to pick these usernames to make it easy for me. Libertarian 1986, sorry Quad, it's on this channel. Am I on the right channel? Just to make sure, give me a 5v5 and let me know I'm on the right channel. I'm gonna let me come in. Good evening, everybody. Make sure everyone's coming in. Am I on the right channel? One, give me a 5v5. And two, give me a 5v5 if you can hear me. I'm not seeing any 5v5s come up. That's quite worrying. Give me a 5v5. Right, 5v5. And am I on the right channel on Rumble? Two, possibly not. Am I on the right channel? 5v5s I'm seeing, well done. First in you were. Let's have a look. Right, I'm about to bring in the wonderful Dr. Peter Glidden, right? But before I do that, I need to go and make sure that when I kick out of here, our old mucker comes up on a screen at the end. Let's have a look. Right, here we go. Because we're going to be talking about a few things tonight. And I am going to bring up, if it's on the screen, let's see how quickly Peter comes up on the screen. Hello.
Hello, Governor.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, I've got echo.
Okay, hold on. Hold on, Gov. It's all right.
It's working. Oh no, I'm still. Now I can't hear you.
Hey, tell me about Michael Abney Hastings. Who is this guy? The true king of England.
Who is who?
Is this guy called Michael Abney Hastings?
I haven't got a clue.
He did a documentary years ago which claimed that he and his family were the rightful kings of England.
Are you talking about an Australian?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. That is true. And if we could get him back, because now he's just a farmer. Well, he was. I think he's actually died since. But it's either one of his daughters or his son is in line for the throne as the true king of England, and the line is as it should be. Yeah.
Son of a gun.
Yeah, that's actually true. That documentary you've seen, I used to show that to people. People at first, because there was someone else, I won't say his name on this show, that was a complete and utter lunatic. And therefore, anyone speaking about this other guy in Australia was seen as a conspiracy theorist. But this other part in Australia it's actually a lineage thing. As far as I know, it was done through DNA, and it got to the end of one line, and they should have gone to this other group of people, and they didn't. They brought in another lot, and then that lot ended up emigrating to Australia. So our true king is currently living in Australia. That is absolutely true. Now I've answered your question. I want you to answer one for me.
Okay, very good.
Right, you said that you was very interested in UFOs, and you're into UFOs.
Yes, sir.
So tell me more, because I find this a fascinating subject. I know that Tucker Carlson, and there's another guy, I forget his name now, but he was on like Fox News, etc. And them two believe there is something in the UFO thing. So without making it, so what I'm trying to say to people is, and I did say this to someone else, so I'll give you my opinion on it. I don't believe that they're aliens. I believe there was a previous civilization on this planet that is still out there and up there, and they keep an eye on what we're doing. And something happened to the planet, this planet, whatever it was, whether they destroyed it, I don't know. Whether there was a massive nuclear war or something. But my opinion is, so what I'm trying to say is, I don't think these people, if there's such thing as aliens, have come to Earth. I don't think they're aliens. I think they're a previous civilization of Earth. But carry on. Tell me what you think about UFO.
They're aliens. They're from other civilizations. The best way to kind of get your fingers on this pulse is to do a search for Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, and the Disclosure Project. Stephen Greer's been talking about this for 20 years, and about 10 years ago, he held a press conference at the White House. There was some venue, the National Press Corps or something. He had a conference there, and he invited people from all over the world, most of whom were ex-military and ex-government officials. James Hillier, who was the director, he was like the equivalent of the CIA in Canada, right?
Yeah.
James Hillier testified at the National Press Conference over 10 years ago that they currently had 10 different treaties with different alien civilizations, and that they'd had them since the 1940s. And I'm telling you, man, it's much bigger, deeper, and wider than you think. And probably, and I'm making numbers up here, but probably at least half of the craft that are seen now, right, by people all over the world now, it's becoming an emerging phenomenon, are not alien. They're reverse technology craft which have been built by world governments. China's in on it, Russia's in on it, the United States is in on it, Canada's in on it. They reverse technology these crashed craft since the 1940s. Roswell was the first one. It started everything off.
Yeah.
So we have anti-gravity tech. We have extreme high-speed ability to like get to Mars in 2 days. There's all kinds of technology, free energy that's been hidden and sequestered by this breakaway governments all around the world. And this is what Stephen Greer talks about. Stephen Greer, a medical doctor who's been highly involved in this, and he has connections with all of these governmental officials and all of these ex-military people. And he did a really great program. It was called the Disclosure Project, I think. And it talked about all of this stuff with people coming forward with all of these details and irrefutable evidence that has been quashed by the people who are running this. You know, remember years ago in the United States, they talked about, you know, there was some stupid number, like $300 billion in the Pentagon budget that just went missing.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that all went to reverse technology, alien technology. And Stephen Greer's position is that the people that are running this are above the government, and that most presidents of the United States are unaware of it. Most leaders of world governments are unaware of it because they're not, you know, in the need to know, and that all of this is being run by a breakaway group of people who are basically, you know, shoving it up our ass. They don't care about it. They're keeping all the technology for themselves. Can you imagine what would happen to the world if we had free energy?
No, I agree.
Can you imagine what would happen to the world if we had anti-gravity tech? I mean, just the free energy thing. No more dependence on fossil fuels, no more dependence on oil, no more dependence on gas, no more dependence on coal. And oh, by the way, it's free. I mean, it would completely alter everything. Yeah, but big oil would go away. Big coal would go away. All of the people that are in charge of power delivery right now, who are, running the show, they'd all be out of a job overnight and the economy would collapse. And so now Stephen Greer is also talking about this notion that the people that are running this, the cabal that's running this, that has been running this since the 1940s, because of all of this disclosure stuff that's now coming into the popular culture, right? That the cabal people are not happy with it, and that they're probably going to run a false flag operation where they have, a craft or crafts that have been built by us.
Yeah.
And they start hovering around London and hovering over Paris, just like in the movie Independence Day, in order to scare the world population into doing something dramatic, like, one world government. So Stephen Greer is warning people of this false flag stuff, that as far as he's concerned, all of the eyewitness testimonies that he has collected over the last 50 years have said that the races that are coming here are benevolent, and that they're not, because the technology is so far advanced that if these people wanted to destroy us, like to enslave us or to wipe us out so they could take over the planet, it would have happened in the 1940s, because the tech that they have is so advanced, so that these races are benevolent. But it's a real paradigm shift for people to go there. And then there's all this religious stuff that comes into play, and what is all that, and what happens to the economy of the world. And oh, by the way, can you imagine what would happen? There would be a worldwide riot if it was finally disclosed with proof that everything that I just said is true. Because there's a certain group of people that have been holding on to this information and keeping it from public consumption for over, 60 years now, and has caused an immense amounts of suffering because of it. No free, can you remember free energy 60 years ago, or everything would change, right? So we're on the brink of something, but definitely extraterrestrial people are real. There are lots of them, and they're all benevolent, no matter, regardless of what you've heard about the evil reptilians living in the middle of the earth.
No. So one thing, I mean, I haven't done any research. To be honest with you, we've got our own problems with the Constitution and other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But what I do express to people is, if they were, if they had any feelings towards us that they wanted to destroy us, their technology, and if they was that advanced that they could get here, they're that advanced that they could wipe us out tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. I mean, and a couple of years ago, it was more like 10 years ago, there were a number of incidents around the world where UFOs would show up over nuclear bases, nuclear missile installations.
Yeah.
And all of the machines would shut off. And then they turn on. And then they shut off. And then they turn on. And then they shut off. And the aliens were giving a message that, look, we can do whatever the hell we want. And we're showing you our hand, but we're not going to do it, because that's not what we do. But what we encourage you to do is not blow each other up in the meantime. There was a really famous incident in Rendlesham Forest in the UK years ago, where a craft showed up on a military base, and there were three military officers that went to investigate it. And one guy touched the craft, and he was downloaded all of this information these ones and zeros, and that he wrote them out on a piece of paper. It was fascinating stuff. I've been following this for whatever reason since I was 10 years old. I don't know why I've been following it since I was 10 years old. I don't have any memories of having any interactions with any extraterrestrials, but I was living on an island 30 miles out to sea, and my best friend, who lived right next door to me, he was 2 years older than I were. We were childhood buddies. We played together every day for like 10 years. He was also seriously into it. And I've always wondered if there was a there, if, you know, something actually happened, but we can't remember it. But I don't know. But I've been very interested in all of this since I was 10 years old. And I'm telling you, it's very real. And I think the best way to get an entryway into this whole world is with Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
And also the Disclosure Project.
I've seen him a couple of times. And seen some of the stuff he says. But like I said, the main thing that I say to people is if they was any way wanting to harm us, that
it would have been all over a long time ago.
No, exactly. You can't have the type of technology they've got to get here and out, and not have the technology to wipe us out like that. So they must be friendly, otherwise they would have done that anyway.
Yeah, and Hollywood, of course, promotes all of these notions about evil aliens, and it was called Star Wars, right? Not Star Peace, right? And all the Star Trek series is about all these alien cultures that are battling each other, and it's like, it's all hocus pocus made up by Hollywood. The only really Hollywood movie that had any sense that it was really close to the truth was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That showed benevolent people from another planet having interactions with human beings. So don't be afraid of extraterrestrials, ladies and gentlemen, but they're very real, and it's only a matter of time until they come to a station near you.
I agree. So now we are going to get back to a more mundane of natural law. And before, obviously, just briefly explain to people who you are. But the other thing I will say to people is, I took all of these Ruta Gravelones 30C, and my finger is still doing the same thing, right? So we'll talk about that, and it hurts when I get it back. So
okay.
So one way or the other, I think that did help some, but I run out of them, and I should have probably got some more. But I can also feel the other three fingers, and depending if what I eat, I can get it to both. So I do feel it's not just a joint thing; it's like an inflammation.
Okay, very good. So you then the next thing to do in the protocol. Did I just freeze up? Am I good?
Yeah.
So the next thing to do in the protocol is to take the same homeopathic medicine in a different strength. So you should purchase the Ruta Graveolens in the 200C or 200CK strength. 200C or 200CK. Get 1 4-gram vial. You can get that at helios.co.uk.
Yeah.
Okay. And take 2 pellets on your tongue, rub them against the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
Twice a day for 14 days.
So you're saying it's 200C?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Because this is the thing, right? The laws of, in this case, the laws of homeopathy, because we're speaking specifically about homeopathic medicine, which is different than acupuncture. It's different than chiropractic. It's different than botanical medicine. It's different than hydrotherapy. It's different, right? The laws of homeopathy are like the laws of aerodynamics. They're laws which exist whether you know about them or not. Now, if you're a pilot and you don't pay attention to the laws of aerodynamics, you're going to crash the plane.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that planes can't fly? No, it means you're a bad pilot. So when we pay attention to the laws of homeopathy, that's when we get a positive response. And so you felt a little bit of improvement. Okay. So we go up in strength and look to see what happens. And we keep moving like that until we find a solution to the problem. Because I'm going to tell you right now, and this is a hard thing to understand, that this took me 30 years to understand what I'm about to tell you. Let me say that again. It took me 30 years to understand what I'm about to tell you. With the exception of mechanical injury, like you got a broken bone, you're in a car crash, you got a bullet in your leg, right? Heaven forbid, you got a 3rd-degree burn. With the exception of physical trauma to the body, physical complaints or mental complaints or emotional complaints, most of the things that most people go to the doctor for most of the time are not physiological in their genesis. They're energetic. And that the energy body of the human being is what's affected first. And then that has a trickle-down effect to the physical body. And so the treatment must be an energetic treatment as opposed to a physiological treatment, right? And all pharmaceuticals are physiological treatments, right? They don't get to the root cause of the problem. And it's really fascinating. For instance, there was a very famous case years ago. This was more than 100 years ago. It was about this kid in England who had diphtheria. And back in the day, diphtheria was a big deal. And it's related to a particular type of microbe, right? And can kill you if it's not taken care of. So this kid showed up at a homeopathic hospital when there used to be homeopathic hospitals, before there was the hostile takeover of medicine by the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
And they swabbed his throat and he's got diphtheria. He tested positive for the microbes. And you could see there's a film that starts to form on the back of the throat, right? And then the person suffocates if it goes all the way. So the kid shows up at the hospital. He was treated with homeopathy. That's all they gave him. They didn't give him any drugs. They didn't give him any herbs. They didn't give him any vitamins. They didn't give him anything else. All they gave him was the homeopathic medicine based upon the laws of homeopathy. And in 24 hours, he's symptomatically much better, much healthier. Breathing is easier. His symptoms are better. The fever is gone. And they swabbed his throat again, and the microbes were gone. They were gone. They were there a few days before. A couple days after the treatment, the microbes were gone. Well, what does this mean? This means that the illness was not caused by the microbes, that the illness was an energetic illness, and that homeopathic medicine fixed the energetic imbalance. And when the energetic imbalance was fixed, the microbes disappeared because there was no more room for them to live. It's kind of like if you see a dead animal on the side of the road and you flip it upside down, there's all these bugs eating it away, right? But that doesn't happen to a living animal. And so are the bugs the cause of the problem, or are the bugs there because of the problem? The fascinating line of inquiry, but nonetheless, this trigger finger is not a physiological phenomenon, it's an energetic phenomenon. And the homeopathic medicine has a great deal of facility in being able to fix it. But the homeopathic medicine, regardless of what we're treating, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a tumor. It doesn't matter if it's a migraine headache. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to fly the plane correctly. You have to pay attention to the laws of homeopathy and stimulate them correctly. And if you don't do it correctly, you're going to get a piss poor result. But if you do it correctly, you're going to get a remarkable result, because homeopathic medicine is the only medical system in which the use of a medicine, a medicinal agent, is curative. Homeopathic medicines are based upon the law of similars, which is a curative law of nature. And it's a law. It exists whether you believe in it or not. And learning how to stimulate that law and learning how to fly that plane It took me 30 years to be able to figure that out.
So in relation to this, what is it that this does for my finger? Because I did feel an injury, but not. Why does it make?
All right. So that's a great question. It'll take me kind of half an hour to answer that question, but I'll try to give you the cliff notes. Okay. Okay. So, sound canceling headphones, right?
Yeah.
You put them on, you flick the switch, and all the ambient noise goes away.
Yeah.
Well, that's because of a technology where identical waveforms cancel each other out. That's the law of physics. And there's a name for it. I forget what it is. So, for instance, if you have a tank of water and you get two fishing weights and they're both the same weight, like, 2-ounce weights, and you hold them 3 feet above the ends of the tank and you drop them in the water, because they were the same height and the same weight, they're going to create exactly the same wave. It's going to be the same wavelength and the same frequency. And when those waves rush towards each other, there's lots of turbulence because there's a lot of waves in the tank. But when the waves intersect, they cancel each other out. And in the middle of the tank, it's flat calm. It's a fascinating experiment to watch. But, this is a law of nature that two identical waveforms cancel each other out. So homeopathy is based upon a similar principle, which is referred to as the law of similars. So if I have a person with a migraine headache, for example, and their pain feels like their head's being squeezed in a vice, I will give them a homeopathic medicine, which, when given to a healthy person, produces the sensation that their head is being squeezed in a vice.
Yeah.
And when I give that medicine, the law of similars is activated and the migraine disappears, because the energetic origin of the illness is eliminated by virtue of the action of the homeopathic medicine. It's kind of like sound canceling headphone technology. The homeopathic medicine sends out a waveform of a particular frequency, and if it's correctly prescribed, if you fly that plane correctly, it cancels out the organic disease and the person's brought back into a state of health. Now, if the migraine sufferer felt like their head was exploding, like being pumped up with air like a balloon, right? And I gave them the homeopathic medicine that produced the sensation that their head was being squeezed in a vice, it wouldn't work. Because with homeopathy, in order to activate the law of similars to bring about healing, you have to match the symptoms of the disease with the symptoms created by the homeopathic medicine, and it has to be an exact fit. If it's not an exact fit, it doesn't work, or you get piss poor results. And therein lies the challenge of homeopathy, is trying to figure out the symptoms of the illness and then matching them to the symptoms of the homeopathic medicine, which are generated when you give it to a healthy person. And that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. And it works on the energetic body, not on the physiological body. And that's a whole nother conversation, because the homeopathic medicines are extremely diluted. They're so much diluted, they're diluted beyond something called Avogadro's number, which means that in that 30C potency that you were taking, there's not even one molecule of the original substance left. It's not there. The chances of one molecule being there are like infinite. So we have diluted the medicine so much that there is no more of the original substance in there, but there is something there. Because when you give that medicine to a sick person correctly, or you give that medicine to a group of healthy people, they all develop the same symptoms. So the preparation of the homeopathic medicine is creates an effect, a physiological effect, which science is completely and this is why people poo-poo homeopathy. Oh, because you're just giving placebo because the medicine is so dilute that there's nothing left there. Bullshit. There's something there. And we've proven it tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times. We've proven that the homeopathic medicine induces a result in healthy people, a physiological change in healthy people. The question is, how does it do it? But, you know, the big pharma doesn't want to figure this shit out because the homeopathic medicines are safe, gentle, easy on the body, unbelievably inexpensive, and they're curative. So they don't want nothing to do with that because remember, from the pharmaceutical perspective, a patient cured is a customer lost. So they're going to slander homeopathy. They're going to give all kinds of bad PR about homeopathy. They're going to lie about homeopathy. They're going to create a counterintelligence campaign against homeopathy, making everybody think that the only people that prescribe homeopathic medicines are back-of-the-bus quacks with substandard dangerous training, which it's all a goddamn lie. So now remember, homeopathy is just one type of curative medicine. I've seen people cured with prayer. I've seen it. I've seen people cured with hands-on healing. I've seen people cured with chiropractic adjustments. I've seen people cured with fasting. I've seen thousands of people cured with medical nutrition. I've seen people cured with the prescription of a botanical substance, right? There's a lot of ways to provoke a curative response in the human system. But when we're using a medicine, a medicinal substance, the only medicinal substance that provokes a cure is the properly prescribed homeopathic. And, you know, I asked ChatGPT the other day, is homeopathy curative? And they said, no, homeopathy is a placebo, pseudoscientific, unproven system of medicine, which is all a great big bald-faced freaking lie.
Yeah, well, that and again, it's getting that straight from the pharmaceutical training that it's getting in the background. all it's doing is scraping the websites that have been, and all that information has been fed into the system. There's an old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
That's right. 100,000% correct.
Yeah, no, I agree with you entirely.
Oh, it's a fascinating thing. I had a little girl years ago. I was like 3 years out of medical school, right? You know, brand new. I was green, baby. And these parents brought this little 9-year-old girl to my office. She had something called reflex sympathetic dystrophy. And I'd never heard of it before. This was way before the internet. So I had to dig out my medical books and look this stuff up. Anyway, it's a neurological condition. And if you touched her below her waist, she had it below her waist. If you touched her very lightly, it felt to her like you just hit her with a hammer, right? Nobody knew what causes it. Nobody knew what to cure it. For a couple of years before her parents brought her to see me, they were going to Children's Hospital in Boston, which was about an hour and a half away, 2 hours away. Once a month for a couple of years, no change. Every time she went there, she was seen by a team of doctors because it was a teaching hospital. So the parents bring the kid to see me on Friday, and it had been a long week, man. You know, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, what the hell is that? So I told the parents, look, you're going to need to come back on Monday because I'm going to need to take 2 hours to take all the information in that I need, and then I'm going to have to do my analysis. The parents said, okay, we can do that, but isn't there something you can give just for the weekend? Because she's in a lot of pain. So my intuition kicked in, and I prescribed her a homeopathic medicine, kind of like a Hail Mary, based on a couple of the symptoms that she presented with. Medicine cost $8. I gave her 2, maybe 3 doses of it. I don't even know. Maybe she only took 1. I can't remember. Monday, because the parents are in the office before I am, and they got tears in the waiting room. They're all teared up. I thought their daughter had died. But no. The kid was cured. In the course of 1 weekend, she was cured of an illness that she'd been suffering from for 2-3 years. Cured. From a couple of doses of an $8 homeopathic medicine. Now, here's the kicker. A couple of weeks later, she went back to Children's Hospital because she had a regularly scheduled visit. The parents bring her into the hospital. They're all excited. The kid's cured. This is a landmark. It's going to change medicine. It's going to be the greatest thing that ever happened, right? is an uncurable neurological illness. The parents told me there were like 10, 11 doctors in the room. They did the examination of the child. She's completely cured. They did the blood work. She's completely cured. The doctors can't believe it. They said, "Oh my God, what did you do?" "Oh, well, we took the child to a naturopathic doctor and he gave her a homeopathic medicine." The parents said that all the doctors in the room, when they said, they got up and left. Not one of them called me. Not one of them made the trip to my office, which was less than 2 hours away. Not one of them. The kid was cured, and they had evidence in front of their face that the kid was cured, and they didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't want to know how it happened. They didn't want to know anything about it. And that's the problem that we have in medicine today, because the education of a medical professional creates cognitive dissonance. And the meme is, the thought control is, if I wasn't taught it in medical school, it's simply not true. So they've got blinders on. And they're the wrong dog for the hunt, ladies and gentlemen. If you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, you should seek out alternatives to conventional medicine. And you should only use the conventional medical people if you have a trauma to your body, you got a bullet, you got a broken leg, you're bleeding to death, you got your leg blown off in the military theater, right? They will save your life because that's what they're good at. But for everything else, you should avoid them and seek out alternatives, which are science-based and clinically verified, and which, by the way, have been developed and delivered by licensed physicians. And that's why I wrote the book that I wrote, and that's why I have the website that I have, because it's got information on it which will help you, empower you to make yourself healthy from the comfort of your own home. Fire your medical doctor immediately and seek out alternatives.
Let's see if I can bring that back. I had it on here 2 seconds ago and it's gone. Let's see if there it is. I'll bring this up on, there it is. I'm just going to make sure everyone sees this. I'll bring it. So I've got another question for you. But before I do, I'm going to bring this up. And in the link to tonight's show, you will see this. So this is Dr. Glidden's website. There are medically effective alternatives to drugs and surgery that have purposely been removed from the mainstream. And I absolutely believe that is true. Let Dr. Glidden show you what you've been missing, especially now. And then if you become a member and if you use the link, you get a form of discount. But what it does, it will take you into this. You can go into health protocols, and then from the health protocols, as you go down, any of the things that we're talking about, from indigestions, infertility, shingles, arthritis, anxiety, all of these things are all in there. So just to make sure everyone's got that, they're the self-help health recovery protocols, and each one of them has got a video of Dr. Glidden going through all the different elements and then telling you what you should be taking in the protocol. But before I say anything else, I'm going to come back. Now I've got another question for you.
Yeah.
This is in relation to post-menopausal women, all women. Yeah. I'm not targeting any particular female.
No.
HRT is supposed to be dangerous and cancerous. Tell us your opinion on that, and what is a natural substance you can take that would help in those women?
Well, I was one of the first doctors in the world to actively be involved with the prescription of bioidentical hormones. I was doing bioidentical hormones prescriptions in the early 1990s, long time ago. And I don't do it anymore because here's why. Menopause is not a disease. It's a time of life. And if all of your organs are intact, if you've got your uterus and both ovaries and your gallbladder, then giving hormonal assistance is dangerous. Because if I was like an evil Bond villain, and I wanted to hurt lots and lots of people easily, I'd put hormones into the water supply.
Yeah.
Because hormones affect every single system of the body all the time. So, but this is the way that the medical doctors think, right? The medical doctors are trained to think that you are a bag full of biochemicals waiting to break. And when it does break, your only solution is to take a synthetic drug in order to manage the problem rather than attempt to cure it. So, right, puberty is not a disease. The childbearing years are not a disease. Menopause is not a disease. If you are a menopausal woman and you are having strong and persistent symptoms, that's because the first thing to consider is that your body has run out of the nutrients that it needs to keep those systems of the body running, right? Because aging is a stress on life. It is. If this is how many nutrients your liver needs, but this is how many nutrients your liver has, your liver is not going to be able to manage its hormones, because that's one of the jobs that the liver does, is management of hormone production. And the body has wisdom. The body knows that you need this level of hormones when you're 20, and it knows that you need this levels of hormones when you're 60. The body knows all that. Now, Suzanne Somers, years ago, was an advocate of bioidentical hormone supplementation for all women over the age of 40, because one of the reasons that your health goes into the shitter when you're over 40 is because your hormones decrease. So you're 40, you're 50, you're 60, you're 70, you want to take bioidentical hormones into the body to give your body the levels that it had when it was in the 20s. And guess what happened to Suzanne Somers? She died of breast cancer. And that was like a 10-second news blurb. Suzanne Somers dies from breast cancer. There was no follow-up. There was no nothing. It was like 10 seconds on the news cycle, and then it disappeared. Why? Because bioidentical hormone industry is $1 billion industry a year. And the only women that are candidates for bioidentical hormone supplementation are women in the childbearing years who've had their uterus or their ovaries removed. Because those women will, in fact, benefit from the proper bioidentical hormone supplementation. But then that must be withdrawn once they get into menopause. Now, most of the time, when you give your body the nutritional support that it needs, and you stop eating food that's gumming up the works, and then you do a little detox or a little liver support, the menopausal symptoms disappear. Why? Because they're symptoms of an imbalance. It's not part of life. You don't get menopausal symptoms because, you're 40 years old, 50 years old. You get menopausal symptoms because there's an imbalance in the body. And naturopathic doctors attempt to fix that, whereas medical doctors just suppress the shit out of it with bioidentical hormones, which is a big bad voodoo daddy.
So if and there's a couple of people I'm referring to out there as the audience, if they've had their, for example, womb removed, ovaries removed, and they're not in childbearing years, is HRT still? It should not be an option. What is the option? What is the option then?
Well, medical nutrition.
Yeah.
Dietary management, because you have to stop eating food that's hurting you.
Yeah.
In this analogy, the human body is a lot like a car. So when we do the medical nutrition, we tune the car up, right? Now that we got engine oil in it, we got power steering fluid, we got coolant, we got good spark plugs, we got good air filters, we got enough air in the tires, everything's good. Now, if you tune your car up, but you continue to put diesel fuel in the tank and it's an unleaded engine, the car is going to run like crap if it runs at all. So you got to do two things. You got to nutrify the body, tune it up, and you got to stop eating food that's hurting the body.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to hormones, you need to do a 21-day or a 42-day liver support protocol, because the liver is intimately involved with the regulation of hormones in the body. And that's what needs to happen. Now, notwithstanding all of that, there is one other system of medicine that is most excellent for menopausal symptoms, and that's homeopathy. But homeopathy has to be individualized. It would depend entirely on the symptoms that the postmenopausal woman is experiencing. Is she bitchy? Is she weepy? Is she anxious? Does it have a cycle? Does she get headaches? Is she gaining weight? She's gaining weight. Where's she gaining weight? Is it below the waist? Is it in the arms? What are the symptoms of the imbalance, which the medical doctors are, labeling as whatever the hell they're labeling it? And then when we have an understanding of the symptoms, then we can match it to a homeopathic medicine to try to stimulate the law of similars and bring about a healing. And in a perfect world, you would do both. You would do medical nutrition, liver support, and homeopathy bundled all together. And I'm the only one in the freaking world that does that. Let me say that again. I'm the only one in the world that does that. So, but most of this information you can get on the website, honestly.
No, I agree entirely, and it's more for people to understand that they can get all of this information. I get emails from people. I'm not suggesting it's the age of my audience, but from younger people as well. That is the question, and they ask me about HRT, and they ask me about different things. So one person actually, when I actually had a conversation, and a husband was saying to the wife, or telling me that his wife had a terrible time during menopause and all that, and then she sort of freaked out and said, "You didn't give a shit. You didn't. You went down the pub and didn't care." You know what I mean? And I was sort of into all of these problems. Or maybe it's just that I'm a good listener. And the husband was like, "Right, I'm going down the pub then. But you get on with your hot flushes." But so there is a lot of interest in that, and I do. I mean, I feel much better when I'm on the Essential 90. And obviously, I mean, there's certain, I've cut out, I would suggest, most of the bad foods, and I've probably got one or two that I'm still munching away on when I shouldn't be. But I would suggest that most of the bad foods I do not eat. I don't eat fried foods, especially don't use any form of oils, and more try and be as healthy as possible. My blood pressure, like I said before, has gone right down. So,
well, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, right? And see, the problem is here that for over 100 years now, we have been underneath the umbrella of a medical monopoly, which has given us all kinds of incorrect, bad, wrong information, right? And so like 90% of what I have to do, regretfully, is help people to unlearn the stupid stuff that they've been taught for their lives. And there's a whole section on my website, by the way, that's dedicated to that. It's my favorite part of the website. It's called Medical Myth Busting, because it really, and that's why, by the way, that's why I also colored my book, right, is red, because it's the red pill, man. This is the red pill that will pop you out of the medical matrix, because you're deep inside the medical matrix, folks. You are, and it's not your fault. It's just the society that we've grown up with, and it's been a one-trick pony. MD-directed pharmaceutical centrists, MD-directed pharmaceutical centers. Oh, those naturopaths, they're quacks. Oh, those acupuncturists, they're quacks. Oh, those Ayurvedic doctors, they're quacks. Oh, those chiropractors, they're quacks. It's all propaganda. And it was done on purpose. And I would argue, because I have argued correctly, by the way, that most of the food that you've been told is good for you is not. And that you were told it's good for you so that you would eat it, so that it would hurt you, so that it would make you sick, so you would need to go to a doctor. But the only doctor you have access to is the pharmaceutical doctor.
Yeah.
So the food that you're eating is making you sick in order to drive drug sales.
So just to make sure I emphasise this point, because I think this is quite important. When they realised that nicotine in cigarettes was very dangerous, they had scientists working on it, and they actually put more nicotine drops, especially in I believe it was Marlboro cigarettes. They actually added nicotine to make it even more addictive. But they had scientists working on this, and then when the tobacco companies started getting sued for all various different things, reference cancer, etc. They actually the food companies and the processed food companies actually employed those same scientists in the production of processed food to make it more addictive.
Exactly 1,000% correct. And then they put fluoride in the water to lower your IQ. Right. Then they put chlorine in the water in order to give you heart disease, because chlorine has been proven to cause clogged arteries. Let me say that again. Chlorine has been proven to cause clogged arteries. So they told you not to eat salt. And salt is one of the most important nutrients that the human body needs. They told you, bread is the staff of life. That's 100,000% BS. It's not. The gluten molecule in bread will kill you slowly. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. And on and on and on and on and on and on and on. My advice, ladies and gentlemen, based after 37 years of clinical work, do not listen to anything that your medical doctor tells you to do unless you're bleeding to death. That's it. Because they don't know what's good for you.
And isn't it strange that I tell my audience, don't listen to what barristers and solicitors tell you.
It's the same.
Right. So just to make sure this audience is aware, you've got the best education from the United States of America with a certain individual, part of the so-called science in America. He gives everyone the best education, not only on the law, but also on the medical profession in the United States. Because what did he do? He pleaded the fifth to 111 questions, right? That's a man who's the highest paid bureaucrat in the United States of America, with access to the absolute best medical treatment, and yet he had a jab, didn't tell anyone, then got some pulmonary
embolism,
didn't tell anyone, and it was one of the major problems that they had with the jab. He kept it all quiet, and then when he got in front of the Senate committee, he pleaded the fifth to 111. So what I'm saying to people is, when you get stopped by a police officer, you don't speak to them. If you go into court, you sack your solicitor, you sack your barrister, and you defend yourself in front of a jury. That's exactly how it works, because if them people do that and say, so the equivalent in England is no comment, right? Or you say nothing at all, right? You don't have to do that spiel at the front, which is, I've been advised for the Fifth Amendment as part of my constitutional rights. All you say is no comment.
And Fauci had immunity. He was granted immunity by Biden. So no matter what he said, nothing could have happened to him. And yet he decided not to say anything.
So I believe it was in 1896, there was a case, I think it was Brown and something else. I can't remember the exact case. And the Supreme Court had already ruled that if you've been given a pardon, this part of the Constitution doesn't apply to you. And the reason why they did that is because they wanted someone to tell the truth without any consequence whatsoever. And he could have done that, and he didn't. And just so this audience is aware, right? There is a group of people called the Jesuit Society, and they gave Anthony Fauci an award for his work that he did with the COVID vaccinations globally. Right? That everyone should understand, because I've been talking on Twitter about the Jesuits and who they are and how they operate and how bad they are. I'm talking about the Jesuit Society, and the Jesuit Society gave Anthony Fauci an award for his work, of what a fantastic person he is.
Yeah, that's so. Was that before or after they were having sex with children?
Well, it's funny you should say that. Do you want me to give you another quick clip?
Sure.
I'll give you. So, one of the things, because I'm reading through a certain part of history, which is basically what they called the interregnum, right? Well, the interregnum. But basically, that meant when England was a republic for 12 years, right? And there was a guy called Cromwell. And what he did was he created a law that withdrew the privileges of the clergy, and so there was a particular law, and it basically said that it was a capital offence to commit incest, right? So in other words, they hang you for incest, and then it said in the law, without privilege of clergy. Now, I always thought that meant, right, that once you got hanged, they couldn't say any rights over your body, so you go to heaven, and that's what I thought it meant. That's not what it meant. What the privilege of clergy was, and I didn't know this until I read it, right? Privilege of clergy was, if you committed an offence of incest or any sexual offence towards a child, if you could read a paragraph from the Bible, you could claim privilege of clergy, and they did not hang you. Right? And then what they done is they put a thing on your thumb, right? What's it called when you brand someone's thumb, so they could only do it at once. So they got away with incest and paedophilia. This is mainly priests, vicars, ministers, etc. And the way they got away with it was to say, we are the clergy and we have the privilege, because the court system that was part of the religious community would not give the death sentence on any of their own people.
What did the Catholic priest say when he was released from prison?
Got no idea.
I feel like a kid again.
Very good.
It's bad, man. It's an inside out, upside down, ass backwards world that we live in. I don't know why.
Oh no.
But it's bad, folks. Fire your medical doctor. They only go to them if you're bleeding or you have a trauma, because that's what they're good at. They're good at that. Yeah. And honestly, if the emergency room doctors or the surgeons consulted with naturopathic doctors for pre and post operative help, they would need to use much less pain meds, and the recovery, post-surgical recovery would dramatically increase, or the time taken would dramatically decrease. But they're not going to do that, and more's the pity.
So I probably shouldn't say this, but is there a naturopathic cure for paedophilia?
Yeah, it's a bullet between the eyes. It's.
I was about to say 38.
Yeah, it's lead. Moving at 2,000 feet per second.
Right. Have you got any time? Because I know that you have appointments to answer any questions.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Let me look. I was just thinking that when you said that. Yeah, I'm good for 10 more minutes, man. 10 more minutes.
So we'll ask, because there was a couple of questions coming in there. Yeah, a lead injection, Archie, not there you go. Look, everyone's agreeing with that statement. It's funny that, isn't it? We must have we've got a great audience, right? Anyone out there want to ask?
Should I dilute the lead? No, don't dilute the lead.
You're being called a legend.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Well, if Graham or I seem tall to you, it's because we stand on the shoulders of giants. I mean, all I am, and I'll speak for myself, all I am is I'm a lens through which all of this information is focused, and it's not in the mainstream. And I have a very good ability to articulate this information. I'm very good at that. I'm not bad clinically either, but I'm very good at being able to take these complicated medical things and turn them into user-friendly terms, because this is another thing that you've been lied to about. You know, you have been taught that medicine is some complicated thing that only the smartest people, the 4.0 Penn Caddy students could possibly ever figure out. It's their domain. It's not in the domain of the normal person. That's a lie. Surgery is complicated, but healing is not.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a couple of questions on here. What's good for? So there's a number of them. What's good for a liver detox? What can you do for a sinus infection? And there's another one on there. I can't see it. It's all black.
Is all right. So liver. There's a lot of confusion with the word detox, right? Most of the time when people and lay people use the word detox, they use it incorrectly. When we're not detoxifying the liver is the organ that the body uses to detoxify things. Bad crap comes into the body, it goes into the portal system, it goes into the liver, and the liver deconstructs it. Phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification of the liver. It changes fat-soluble toxins, which most exogenous toxins are fat-soluble, into water-soluble stuff, and then the body excretes the water-soluble stuff through the skin or the lungs or mostly the urine and the stool. So the body has an ability to detoxify, but the detoxification process demands nutrients. And the nutrients are essential, which means the body cannot make the nutrients it needs to detoxify. Those nutrients have to be swallowed. So if this is how many essential nutrients your liver needs to detoxify things, but this is how many it has, it can't detoxify. And so if you go on a detoxification program without the proper nutrification, you're going to burn fat, you're going to liberate toxins. All these toxins are going to go into the bloodstream, go into the liver, but the liver can't handle the load because it only has this many nutrients instead of this many. So it's going to sneak through the liver's sentry gate and go into the general circulation, and then you're screwed. I knew a guy, this was right when I was starting naturopathic medical school a long time ago. He was a super born-again Christian. And he went into the woods in the Pacific Northwest, into the Olympic National Rainforest for 40 days and 40 nights and just drank water just like Jesus. That's what he did because he was into it, right? So he did a 40-day water fast. That's all that he did, in Mother Nature. Beautiful part of the world, by the way. 2 months later, he got leukemia, and within 2 years, he was dead. Now, why did that happen? Well, because here's how many nutrients his liver needed. Here's how many nutrients his liver had. And when he went on the 40-day detox, he lost all this weight. 40-day water fast, he lost all this weight, liberated all these toxins, and they freaking killed him because his liver did not have the ability to handle it. So first, if you're going to go on any type of a weight loss or any type of a global detoxification fasting thing, which is a good idea, by the way, it's one of the 3 pillars of health recovery. Pillar number 1, nutrify. Pillar number 2, stop eating food that's hurting you. Pillar number 3, detox. But you have to do it in that order.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to hurt yourself. Now, the best way to help your liver be all that it can be is to take the 90 essential nutrients, which is in the form of something called the Healthy Foundation Pack. Take the 90 essential nutrients for 4 weeks. Well, you should take it for the first year, you should do the 90 essential nutrients every day. And then in year number 2, you can do it every other day or 3 times a week. But you got to give your body the stuff it needs. And then after the first month, you do a 21-day beet juice protocol. So on week number 1, you drink 2 ounces of fresh squeezed beet juice. Week number 2, 3 ounces of fresh squeezed beet juice a day for 7 days. And week number 3, 4 ounces of fresh squeezed beet juice every day for a week. Now, to the beet juice, you can add carrot juice and Granny Smith apple juice. And I don't care how much carrot or apple juice you use. And by the way, that combination is freaking delicious. Carrot, beets, and green apple is delicious. And you drink that every day for 21 days and your liver will regenerate. Because the liver is the only organ in the body that can regenerate. You can surgically remove, 75% of it, it'll grow back. That's remarkable. Well, yeah, that's remarkable. And there's a phytochemical in the beets that causes liver, it's called hepatoneogenesis, which is fancy schmancy doctor talk for your liver regrows itself. So that's how to do it. And by the way, all of that information is on my website. And for 2 hours a week, 1 hour on Tuesday, 1 hour on Thursday, for my subscribers, only for my subscribers, I answer questions just like this. So you don't have to wait for once a month for me to show up with Graham. You can do it twice a week if you're a subscriber on my website, and you should. Because this stuff that I'm talking about, you should have been taught in high school. Honest to God, you should have been taught this in high school.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as the Constitution. It should have been taught in high school so everyone knows exactly what to say when they get in front of a judge or a jury. Let me have a look. There was a couple of other little questions there. Can I ask Dr. Glidden if he can help a lady who's developed a palsy since having mistakenly taken the jabs 3 to 4 years ago? She's a wonderful, fit lady, was bright, intelligent, and active, now injured.
Yeah, I have a colleague who developed an antidote to the COVID jab, and the Food and Drug Administration raided his office with automatic weapons. They took all of his stuff, but he did a workaround, and you can still get his stuff. If you call my office, we'll give you that information. And so I would get, it's called the CV imprint dropper. C like Charlie, V like Victor, imprint dropper. We'll tell you where to go to get it if you give the office a call, and that's what I would do if I were her. Now, anybody that has any type of a neurological illness, like palsy, they need to stop taking their statin drugs. Stop taking their statin drugs, because statin drugs lower cholesterol, and your central nervous system is made from cholesterol. So stop the statin drugs. I would nutrify the body with the 90 essential nutrients. I would clean up the diet, all of which is explained on my website. And I would get this CV imprint dropper, and I would get 2 bottles and I think it's 7 drops a day until both bottles are empty.
Right. So if they use the link below, they'll get to your website. They'll be able to contact you from there.
Yeah. Now, another thing you can do, and I don't know if you could do this in the UK, is you want to have a full body MRI.
All right. Yeah.
Because in an MRI, you're subjected to this really strong magnetic field.
Yeah.
And the magnetic field neutralizes the nanotech that was in the jabs. There was a lot of nanotech that was in the jabs. It's not good, but the magnetic field will neutralize that. So you want to have an MRI, no contrast. I don't know how on earth you're going to do that inside of a socialized medical system, but that's another strategy.
Okay. I am going to...
So much to know.
Yeah. Any other questions there? I add essential 90 to my beetroot. Ace. Is primrose good for women in menopause?
Evening primrose oil? Not really. The 90 essential nutrients are.
Okay.
And there we have a combination of, they're the best botanical medicine company in the world that's available for over the counter. You know, you don't need a prescription to get it. Is a company called Good Herbs, and they're owned by Longevity. And the Longevity company sells the nutritional supplements that I recommend. They sell the foundation pack. There's a botanical medicine made by the Good Herbs called the what's the name of it? I'll think of it in a minute. It is called female hormonal support. Female hormonal support. So get 2 bottles of the female hormonal support and do 4 milliliters twice a day. 2 bottles will last you 1 month. Of the female hormonal support, do 4 milliliters twice a day. That's a good start. Way better than primrose oil. I like not even close. Oh.
Okay. Well, there's others coming up there. But so again, let me bring your website up and we'll bring this to a close. Let me bring it up there so everyone knows exactly what we're talking about. So if you go to this website, there is emails and contact details on there. So
if you go all the way to the bottom, all the way to the bottom, all the way to the bottom, there it is right there.
There it is, and there's the telephone number, and you can get the information that reverses the damage from. So the lady with palsy could go to the bottom of there, get that information, and call.
Yeah, punch us an email, and we'll tell you where to go. No
Okay.
problem. No, and there's no charge for that, by the way. So
okay, thank you very much. Well, thank you yet again.
yeah, we did it again, didn't we? Man, an hour goes by like that, doesn't it?
Listen, Peter, I always enjoy. I look forward to talking to you every month. Right,
ditto. I got to tell you something, Graham. You know, I mean, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. You know what I mean? Because I'm kind of like a lone ranger standing up on a hill waving this flag. But every time I'm hanging out with you, I don't feel so alone anymore. So I think I look forward to it more than you do. So I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you too. And at some stage, we will plan it. At some stage, we will get you over here and Brenda, and we will go through this. And I can tell you now, the audience that will turn up, you will be shocked at how many people will turn up to listen to you.
All right, let's go, and then we can go hang out at the Standing Stones and drink some scotch. Let's go.
Yeah, that'll be it. Okay, thank you very much for coming on, and I will see you the first Monday of next month.
I look forward to it, buddy. Thanks so much.
No worries. Be lucky. Thank you. Well, that was Dr. Glidden. I've got to tell you something. I just want him to go boom and tell things, but there was an interesting conversation that I had over the weekend with someone else, and they was talking about aliens. So there's someone else I know who's into aliens, right? And I thought, I'll tell you what, Dr. Glidden has mentioned aliens, so I'm going to speak about it. I'm not poo-pooing that. I think you've got more chance of having aliens, right, on planet Earth than Earth being flat, right? That's my honest opinion. So just want everyone to understand that. Julie Oakley, thank you, DD. Very helpful information. Right, any questions to me? I'm going to say a couple of little things with reference to, and I've already put a video out on Twitter with reference to Rupert Lowe making an offer. I just believe that to me, he's proved he ain't got an ego. He said, "I'll tell you what, let's go and let's have a discussion about this." And then there was this what come back from Farage. Listen, and my country is England. I'm being honest with everyone now, right? If you really read the history of Oliver Cromwell and what happened, the real history of it, you'll see, and it's something I have always said, that deeply involved with the corruption and part of what caused all the problems in society was a corrupt judiciary, a corrupt barristers, corrupt then solicitors, etc. And he solved a lot of them problems, including there is so much that he did. But the Bill of Rights, in effect, because after the interregnum, I have to say it split up, interregnum, the 12-year period, apart from the fact that they dug him up and stuck his head on a spike and all sorts of stuff, the fact that they then 12 years later got hold of 5 of the generals, hanged them, and they were drawn and quartered as well, right? But when you think that the instrument of governance was the first fully codified Constitution of England and was a wonderful document, they then scrapped, not only scrapped it when the restoration of the king come in, they burnt most not all, but most of the copies of the instrument of governance, which was designed and written and drafted and produced and passed by that parliament. But it was drafted by a military, I think he was a major general or a colonel general or something like that, but he was also a lawyer. And it was a wonderful document. Now, once they burnt it, basically, they burnt all the copies of it. Where have you seen that in history before, right? They burnt any record of it. You wasn't allowed to talk about it right up until, I believe, the 1960s, maybe the early 70s. But when you look at the history, all of what was actually in the instrument for good governance or instrument for governance as a codified constitution, some of the stuff they put in there was then implemented, right, by the Wolf Report of the 1980s, 1970s, the Wolf Report. Anyone remember the Wolf Report? It's amazing. And then most of what was in the instrument of governance, once we went through the Glorious Revolution, was then put into in the English Bill of Rights, right? So just make sure everyone's aware of that, right? And it was then made a forever Bill of Rights and a forever document. You couldn't go around burning it and saying we're not having this anymore, right? You know what? So let me have a look. The left are cropping themselves. Rupert and Farage will get loads of shit thrown at them. Is anything? I mean, I haven't seen anything further than that. Maybe they will have a discussion. I don't know. All I'm saying is, anyone who for me to be holding out an olive branch to someone who's trying to put me in prison, had the police sent round, and let me tell you something, Rupert Lowe was lucky. Them old Bill that come round, he doesn't understand how corrupt them old Bill are, right? That they are often used and have been used as a hit squad, right? If they want to take someone out, particularly, they will use armed police, right? And no one does anything about it. It's like, oh, yeah, well, I was in fear of my safety or my life, or I was in fear of this officer's safety. So that is why I shot him 9 times in the head, right? That's the type of thing they just get away with because the system is so corrupt, right? So I do think, in some ways, I don't think Rupert Lowe realises how lucky he was, right? And not only that, he got his firearms back. So on the other side of the fence, I mean, if someone for the country, I'll probably go, all right, let's have a chat. And he has proved to me that he definitely ain't got an ego. I would be a bit more concerned at the moment, and I will say this, that we're listen, I've come to the conclusion, it's because of the non-enforcement of our constitution and the corruption of the judiciary, solicitors, barristers, and judges. The complete and utter. I think I might try and read something to you because I think it's important I'll show it to you. Whether I can find it again now is another matter. But I personally believe the only way out of this is if we take the country back, and we have got a right to do that. And I'm not saying get rid of the monarchy. I'm saying that the current CEO, which is current king, has got to go, right? And then if any person, every person and any person should absolutely understand, but I honestly believe it's a violent situation. Let me see if I can find it. I put that out there earlier. The gentleman's agreement. Yeah, I'm going to read this one out to you, right? I'm going to show you it as well. Let's see if I can bring it right up on the screen so you can see it. I want people to read this. There's a few little things. And then someone said, I thought you'd know that. Why would you ask that question? Can I just say something to people, right? If, generally speaking, if I ask you a question of Grok, I know what the answer is, right? What I want is people to see what Grok says, right? So, by the way, there's a couple of trolls out there. And you know when you're doing well, because these people absolutely do not like the fact that you're getting the information out there, right? So I asked Grok, is this statement true, yes or not, right? Early observers and some Fabians themselves, notably George Bernard Shaw, you all know he was one of the Fabians, compared the society's patient, infiltrative strategy to Jesuit methods of influence. Shaw reportedly wanted the Fabians to act as the Jesuits of socialism, right? Just to make sure you've got that. And just to make sure, this is Grok's reply, because I asked Grok, is this statement true, right? And Grok said, yes, the statement is true. George Bernard Shaw told Edward, I think that's Edward, Bernstein, he wanted the Fabians to be the Jesuits of socialism. Fabian writings and early observers explicitly compared their gradualist permeating strategy of influence to Jesuit methods, right? Does everyone understand what I just said, right? And now, when you look at, does everyone understand something else? I'm going to say this while this is on the screen, right? Andy Berman is the first Catholic to be placed as a Prime Minister of this country since the Glorious Revolution. That's the first thing, right? And it's the Jesuits, not Catholics, we've got a problem with. Just making sure everyone's aware of this, right? So Andy Burnham is the first. To me, it's a big no-no. Did you know that Tony Blair was attending Catholic Mass all the way through with his wife and his family, all the way through his premiership, and as soon as he resigned or otherwise from being a prime minister, he went to Rome and converted to Catholicism, and then kissed the ring, which one I'm not sure, of the Pope, and got a blessing of the Pope, right? So I want everyone to understand that. I also want to understand that I believe that George Galloway is a Jesuit and has always been a Jesuit, right? I don't know. I can't prove that. I'm just telling you. And don't forget, the Jesuit Society gave Anthony Fauci an award for his work, what he did in COVID-19, right? The other thing that people often don't realise is that Boris Johnson was born a Catholic. He only converted to Anglican and still the Anglican type, the type of Protestant religion he was involved with would have been banned under Cromwell, right? Because it was still to do with prelacy, it was still to do with the hierarchy, etc. I'm going to explain a couple of other things about that in a minute as well. But Boris Johnson was also, he was born a Catholic, right? So if you want to, and there's many others, if you want people to understand that the Jesuits are a serious problem, it's on your screen, that they're, if not working together, certainly aligned in their methods, right? And the Jesuits have been banned from more countries than the Jews. Everyone keeps blaming the Jews, blaming the Jews, blaming the Jews, blaming the Jews, right? I'm going to say this, not all Jews are bad, right? I'm not a Zionist, but as far as I know, Jesuits are, right? And I can be corrected on that if you want, right? But one other thing I will say, especially to the Scottish and the Irish, because I reference King James I, or as he was known in Scotland, King James VI, I believe, as a Catholic king, when in fact he was Protestant. He was the one who took the Borderlands people and dumped them in Northern Ireland. Right, there's a whole history of that, and they will know the history better than me in most cases, as long as they've researched the correct history. My point to everyone is that, so I want to make sure people are clear on what I'm saying. Some people in various movements for independence want the English Parliament, so the British Parliament, to have an English flag stuck on the top, but keep everything that's British, right? That's not what I want, right? I've said that a million times. The system is corrupt to the core, and we need to go back, in my opinion, and it is solicitors, barristers, and judges that have not only assisted but created the corruption to the level it is, because they are not enforcing the Constitution. In fact, they've ignored it, right? So that's the first thing I want to say. But what happened with Cromwell was, and this is the bit that fascinates me, because there's people out there that are what I describe as real Christians. Cromwell wasn't what the world is, or what history is trying to say he is, that this massive evil Puritan. What he said was, and he was the one who returned us back to parishes, that you must be a follower of the word of Jesus Christ. It's Jesus Christ that is the most important part of Christianity. not the hierarchy of a church, right? He believed that the churches were important, but they should be independent of the same Catholic structures, which at a head, in the case of Catholicism, it was a pope, but he didn't agree that the king should be the head of the English church. He believed that the king should be a Protestant, and the Protestant religion should be the sole religion of England and Scotland, by the way, and Wales and Ireland. But the most important thing was he didn't believe in deacons, archbishops, and the structure of the church and the way that they demanded money from you to pay. And by the way, there were fines for not attending church and all sorts of things going on in the background. They were becoming more tyrannical. And what Cromwell said is, no, that's not the way it works, right? And if you had a Bible and you prayed at home, and you as a family worshipped at home, and then other people in your community come together as a group, said prayers and sung psalms, and were Christians, and believed not in the hierarchy of the church, not that the king was your translator or some sort of intermediary with God, but your allegiance was to Jesus Christ, and your allegiance was to your family, to your community, because what the Bible says is the church is the community, the church is the people, right? That is what Cromwell was about. So anyone who, in effect, stuck an English flag above a church, with archbishops, with deacons, with a hierarchy, and with a system that punished you, right, outside of the normal. That's what he said. We ain't having it, right? Did you all know that, by the way? Most of you probably did. So I just wanted to finish with that. But there is so much that I'm going through, and I've got loads of work to do. Tomorrow I've got to go into the hospital and do some other bits and pieces. And I'll catch up with most of what I can. That's it. I'm going to say good night, God bless. Don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution, but at the end of the day, it needs enforcing, and the people letting us down with that is the enforcement process. Don't be in any doubt what I believe. I believe that we're going to have to physically take this country back, because these people are not going to give it to us. That's it. Anything else? Let me have a look. Sharing is caring. True Nazi. Hopefully you've had a good crack. Right, I'm going. Tiddly poo. Au revoir. Speak to you all later. Hopefully I haven't missed anyone. Don't forget, sharing is caring. Don't forget, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, come over, subscribe to the channel on Rumble. Don't forget, sharing is caring, and don't forget to hit the like button. That's it. Good night and God bless.